In today's video, I destroy plastic fenders, create new handles, I use a unique material for tar pit, I create some scratches and paint white strips. Hello fellow modelers! I like World War II tanks, so I want to build a legendary Soviet heavy tank IS-2. I chose a kit from Zvezda. It is a snap kit and is very simplified. In any case, we can create a decent model from it, after some minor modifications. The drive wheel has a mold runner between the teeth. As a result, there is a danger of cutting more than the residual plastic. So be careful here. The parts fit tight. It looks more than is needed, and sometimes the parts crack in tension. It is unpleasant because the kit is primarily designed for assembling without glue. You can repair this issue by making a larger space in bond. All parts need some special care. Here you can at least remove mold lines. The tongue tracks are molded from one piece and have softened joints for bending. I built this kit already 2 times and had a problem primarily with this section. I used glue once and the tracks fell apart. Also, do not glue the drive wheel. You need to set the correct rotation for the teeth later. And one more tip: assemble the wheels and tracks and then paint them. I modified the size of the pin because it was very tight again, and I fixed it with the superglue. It's possible to buy a new metal gun barrel, but this plastic one is not the worst. The hole for mighty 122mm cannon is also in the small 72 scale, relatively large. Consequently, I'm drilling out a hole in the muzzle brake. And front light. I learned to drill these parts in the sprue. Handling is more comfortable. Okay, let's make some battle damage. You can notice in the photos of a real machine that the fenders are missing or were heavily damaged. This kit is one of the cheapest, so cutting or destroying some sections is not painful. I decided to remove the front fenders. It will make the tank armor shapes and tracks more pronounced. I am making some fenders, bent and ripped. You do not need metal parts to make it realistic. Important is to thin down plastic to minimal thickness. Then it is like a paper, and you can shape it as you want. Without fenders, it looks like a different model. The Zvezda kit is not super accurate and some shapes are wrong, like this front armor shape. In reality, it was cast from one piece and should be more round. The armor connections, texture and welds are missing as well. The picture from the testing shooting range shows the connections. I'm imitating them with an ordinary sharp hobby blade. The plastic is relatively soft, therefore it is not a problem. You can make the vision ports deeper if you have a micro drill bits. Okay, more adjustments. Soviet casting and the whole tank production were focused primarily on speed, quality over quantity. Therefore, all parts had very rough texture, as you can see here on the turret. The old and good technique is to dilute Tamiya putty with a lacquer thinner and apply it on the surface. Do the same on the turret, but not so fast. First we need to modify details and fill seam lines. The plastic handles are nice if you do not have them broken. Better is to remove them and make new ones from wires. Great is if you make the holes for wires. Residual plastic works like a template, so you don't need to measure the position afterward. Similar technique I use for the other handles. I glue them, then correct position and orientation, and then cut them out. The residual plastic is a nice template, again, for drill bits. I want to create on turret surface rough cast texture, therefore I cannot use Tamiya putty for filling seam lines. The lacquer thinner could dilute it. So therefore I need something more stable and resilient. I think good for this is super glue. I accidentally mess other parts with a putty, but I can easily clean it with a lacquer thinner. Last but not least touch is welding. I am using 2-component epoxy putty and making thin snakes. When the mix is still fresh, I apply it on the surface and with a toothpick imitate the weld texture. I'm making new handles from copper wires. You can get the wires from old electronic coils or conductors. These minor modifications are time consuming, but you can make a nice model from a cheap toy. Now I'm making fuel tank extruded with a micro electric grinder. The last touch is more battle damage. I think cool effect is reflected hit. I'm making a hole with a grinder and raised metal with epoxy putty. And few more reflected hits from smaller calibers. I had water leaks from washing machine and dishwasher, so I use this plumbing tape for threads. It is actually quite exciting material, so I try to make from it tarp on my model. It is very flexible and holds shape. I only fix it with the PVA glue. I wanted to show how the 122mm shell is large, so I made two used cartridges cases. It was in reality 31 inches long, in better metric system it is roughly 78 centimeters, so quite big tube. I removed 3 side fuel tanks, and instead of them I attached a piece of a wooden trunk. I used wooden skewer, it only remains to create a rough texture with a razor saw. I got used to assembling the whole kit and then painting it. Important is to cover grey plastic with a dark shade. Good is black primer. If you miss some spot with a color, then the black base is less pronounced than the light grey. I am spraying multicolored scratching effect. It means that the base is gunmetal, over is special chipping varnish, then primer red shade, and again chipping varnish. Now you can spray green camouflage colors after all these layers as you are used to. If you don't have all shades, then spray solid green, then add a few drops of light sand, brown or yellow paints. Good is to make a color modulation from 3 shades, at least. Simply make erased and exposed areas brighter than the rest of the surface. I mentioned layers sprayed with a chipping varnish. It is basically varnish which can be diluted with the water. As you can see, after a soft layer of water, the varnish allows removing the top color layer. And if you applied more layers interlaced with the varnish, then the final effect is quite exciting and realistic. I am fixing the surface with a clear lacquer varnish. The water does not have any more effect on the surface after this layer. Thus, I can apply water slide decals without problem. In the kit are decals also for the strips, but it is better to paint them by hand, like real ones were. I am painting imperfections with a white paint, because the numbers are very uniform. The dust and dirt on the tracks I am imitating with the dry pigments. Without fenders are more visible, so they require more care. I unify the whole model with a matte lacquer varnish. As a result, the weathering is more comfortable and the oil paints hold better on this surface. And with these details, I am done. I thought that this kit is cursed because I tried to build it in 3 times in the past few years. At least I learned new techniques every time. I know it is frustrating if you do not finish some model, but we learn from mistakes. Okay, next time, larger aircraft model for change. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Here is the Iron Beast.